Hello, and today we are solving trig equations. My name is Brendan McCoy, and as I stated a few seconds ago, we are solving trig equations with the domain x is greater than or equal to 0 and is less than or equal to 2 pi. And the specific trig equation today we're going to be looking at is 2 cosine squared x equals 3 sine x. So the first step, like for any math problem, is we're going to write our equation. Then, because we see that there are both cosines and sines in this question, we want to eliminate one of them. And since we know there's a relationship between cosine squared and sine squared, we know that sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. So, cosine squared x can be rewritten as 1 minus sine squared x, with the 2 outside on the brackets. And of course, it's equal to 3 sine x. So now that we have it in the brackets, the first thing we need to do is we need to distribute the 2, so we get 2 minus 2 sine squared x equals 3 sine x. Then, since we can clearly see now that this is a quadratic because of the squared, we need to set everything equal to 0 because that's how you solve quadratics. So, we move everything to this side of the equation because that way we get mainly positive values. So, we bring the 2, so we end up with 2 sine squared x plus 3 sine x minus 2. Now, to make this quadratic simpler, because this is quite a complicated question, or it looks complicated, we're going to use Mr. Shret's favorite method from his friend named Candy Ho. And what Candy Ho would do is she would substitute in u, a letter for sine x. In this case, we're going to say let u equal sine x. And so we will rewrite our equation as 0 equals 2u squared plus 3u minus 2. And this looks, it's the same equation, but it looks much simpler than what we had before. So now, changing pieces of paper, we're going to just factor it as we would factor any normal quadratic. Now, since the coefficient of the value which is squared is a 2, we have to multiply this 2 by the negative 2 on the other side to get, so the two numbers we're looking for while factoring need a product of negative 4, and they need to add to 3. And two numbers that multiply to negative 4 and add to 3 are 4 and negative 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to split this number into those two values. So what we're going to get is we're going to get 0 equals 2u squared plus 4u minus u minus 2. Now we need to factor. We split the equation into two buckets and we see what each bucket has in common. In this bucket, we can see that they both have 2u in common. So we take out 2u. In the other bucket, we see they both have negative 1 in common, so we take out negative 1. This brings us to this step. We can see that the two things in brackets after being factored are the same thing, which is good. That means we've done the factoring correctly. And on the outside, we have 2u and negative 1. We can cancel one of these terms, or not cancel, but we can combine these terms simply to get, and put these two in brackets to get the next step, which is 0 equals, in brackets, 2u minus 1, and then in another set of brackets, u plus 2. Now we need to set each of the u's equal to 0, and at the same time we're going to substitute back in for our let statement in which we said that let u equal sine x. So now we're going to say that 2 sine x minus 1 equals 0, and we're going to say sine x plus 2 equals 0. Then we're going to try to get the sine x's by themselves. So on this side of the equation, we will have sine x equals 1/2. And on this side of the equation, we will have sine x equals negative 2. Now we've done most of the algebra. Now we need to do the trigonometry. Now, the first thing we need to do is look at our special right triangles. We know the trig, the commonly used trigonometry expression or acronym of SOHCAHTOA. And in SOHCAHTOA, we know that sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. So we see on this triangle that the angle which we will have an opposite of 1 and a hypotenuse of 2 is the 30-degree angle. So we know that we need to be measuring 30-degree angles. So and also, because our 1/2 is positive, we know that we need to be looking in the first two quadrants of the unit circle because of the acronym all students take calculus. Here, all trig values will be positive, and here all sine values will be positive, which is what we want. So the first thing we're going to do is, using our reference line, we're going to draw a 30-degree angle. And 30 degrees in radians is pi over 6. So that is our first solution, pi over 6. Then, from the other quadrant, we will draw another 30-degree angle. However, this is not just 30 degrees. We have to go all the way around the circle to this. Since we know that 180 degrees, or halfway around the circle, is 6 pi over 6, we see that, and we've gone one less 30 degrees than that, we know that our second solution is 5 pi over 6. The second expression of sine x equals -2, nowhere on the unit circle do we see values of -2, so we know that this part of the equation has no solutions. Therefore, our answers are x equals pi over 6 and x equals 5 pi over 6.